so much for the invitation. To be with you this evening and just share my wakelets with you. Hopefully you will find them helpful in your science of reading journey. So again, thanks so much for being here and for your patience with the technology. All right, so just a little bit about me. I'm just going to start out by first, of course, talking to you about my family. My life is pretty much my family and literacy. So I just want to introduce them to you. This is my husband, Sean. We'll be married 40 years in June, which is hard to believe. It went so fast. This is my son, Justin, and his wife, Amber, and they have 4 children, Lola, Layla, Leo, and Louie. So Lola is 12, Layla is 10, Leo is 8, and Louie is 20 months. So they keep me pretty busy. And then my daughter, when she got pregnant, when she was little, she said, when I grow up, I have a little girl, I'm going to name her Lily. So then I had Lola, Layla, Leo, Lily, Louie. But then when she got pregnant with this one right here, I said, well, you're going to stick with the L's too, because my life is literacy and I'm a natural letters trainer and I've got all these L's. And when I get old, I'll just have to go, oh, and my kids will come running to me because they'll think, you know, I'm calling for them. And she said to me, Mom, did you raise a strong, independent woman? And I said, yes, I did. So this is Daphne. All right, so that's Jessica and Casey and Daphne. So Lola, Layla, Leo, Lily, Louie, and Daphne. So they keep me pretty busy. In my professional life, I serve as the state lead for literacy in Pennsylvania at the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but we are the professional development arm for the Bureau of Special Education and the Department of Education in Pennsylvania. And we are funded by IDEA funds. So I've been the state lead there for 6 years, and the time has gone fast. And I've been there about 12 years. Before that, I was a distinguished educator for the state of Pennsylvania. And most of my career in the classroom was in kindergarten, which I still think is the best grade to teach. I'm sorry, a little biased there. And I was a reading specialist. So literacy has really been a passion of mine. I wanted to be a teacher since I was 8 years old. So I feel very fortunate to work in this field, as I'm sure you do. In my spare time, I am the president of the Reading League Pennsylvania, and I teach at 2 universities. I teach in the doctoral program at Mount St. Joseph University in the Reading Science program, and I teach letters courses at Wilson College. So I keep busy, but it's awesome. So awesome to be with you tonight. So what is a wakelet? And just in case that wakelet word is new to you, it's a place where you can curate digital information. It's a platform. It's for teachers, students, family members could use it as well, to curate content for really easy access. So if you've already clicked on that one wakelet link, you've seen how easy it is to get to it. It's also free, which is so nice. It's a very easy platform to navigate, to add resources to. And so I'm very thankful for Wakelet for offering that platform and also offering it at no cost. So you can curate all kinds of resources on Wakelets. What I've been doing for a number of years is just sharing things with teachers. It is a passion of mine. And so what happened when I first started sharing resources with teachers, they would ask, oh, that post you did like 3 months ago, where is that and where is that resource? And so I started curating these resources on Wakelets and in topic areas. I'm pretty particular about what goes on the Wakelets, that they all align with the science of reading. So if you find something there that has changed, please let me know. But I'm very careful about what is on the Wakelets, that they are resources that you can rely on for professional learning around that topic area, and resources to take that learning into your practice, whether that is your coaching or you're in classrooms yourself. So over the course of time, I've created 31 Wakelets, and they are a range of resources. There are book studies on there. That I still have 2 book studies I have to move over from Padlet to Wakelet, but there are book studies on the Wakelets around primary teaching of reading and conquering dyslexia. There are open mic nights that I've been holding for a number of years. Open mic nights are just topic areas that surface in the field, where experts come in and talk about those topics, or school districts that are making a big shift to the science of reading, who will want to share their science of reading journey with others. So that's what the open mic nights for the most part are. And then lots and lots of wakelets around knowledge around literacy as well as practice. So on each of those wakelets too, there are many, many, many resources. So it's quite a vast array of resources. I just wanted to kind of go briefly over the wakelets that are on that comprehensive link. And then I was going to share a couple of my favorites, but also then as you look through those titles too, if there's one or two that you'd like me to share with you, the resources on there, and then give you an opportunity for you to explore these wakelets as well. So some of you may know, I know that some of you do, know William Van Cleve and the work he did. He was a dear friend, but also a brilliant and masterful teacher around grammar and syntax and morphology. And he passed away unexpectedly last April. So the first wakelet that you'll see there is a collection of videos and resources to extend William's legacy, but definitely it's something I want you to check out because wonderful resources on there to support learning in that area. So that's the first one you'll see. The next three really focus on high frequency words. Oftentimes, I don't know if you're seeing this in the field still, but oftentimes high frequency words are placed on flashcards and students are expected to memorize a number of those. And so it's been something I wanted to share with the field, how to shift that practice to one that's going to help students orthographically map those high frequency words. And so they have knowledge around high frequency words of research in terms of best practices, but then also lots of resources to potentially shift practice from the flashcard reading to practices that really will support kids decoding words that sometimes are called irregular or red words or trick words, but also all words. So one person that I would really like you to check out, if you haven't looked at her research and practices yet, is Dr. Katie Pace-Miles. She has done research with Linnea Airy around high frequency words and types of high frequency words and their functions. She did come to the Reading Link Pennsylvania and do a wonderful presentation that's on there, as well as resources from her literacy resource lab. Dr. Miles is one of those researchers who's still very much a practitioner. She takes that research and translates it into practice, and so do her students. So on that wakelet, you'll see her graduate students who have created many, many resources to help kids learn high frequency words that are a lot of fun. So check that one out around high frequency words. The Kastner collection around the best practices for teaching high frequency words has, again, lots of resources, professional learning, as well as blogs, as well as instructional routines to support that translation of research to practice. And then I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Bruce McCandless's research, but his research has been fascinating as well in relation to high frequency words. He's conducted studies where students were taught to read whole words, and then students in the other group were taught to read with letter sound correspondences. And then they looked at how their brains differed. So you'll find that really fascinating. And there was a big difference in terms of how their brains were wired for reading. Students who are reading whole words were right hemisphere wired, which we wouldn't want. And students who were doing letter sign correspondences were left hemisphere wired. So it's a great video to watch. And lots of resources there for him. So next wakelet, as I told you, been doing some book studies for quite some time, either through the Reading League or myself. The most recent one was with Chris Such and the book, The Art and the Science of Teaching Primary Reading. And so each of those sessions and chapters was recorded, and also the resources related to those chapters as well. I don't know if you know Jan Hasbrook, I hope that you do, and all her research, but she also is a prolific author and has written many books. And this book, Conquering Dyslexia, is one that she has written recently, an outstanding book for educators and for families around dyslexia. And you'll find all the resources from a book study with her and with reading leagues across the country, and Decoding Dyslexia and IDA chapters as well. It was a wonderful collaboration. But Dr. Hasbrook does a wonderful job of explaining very complex things in a very clear language for educators and for families. And I highly recommend that book study if you are interested in learning more about dyslexia. So those are book studies. 2 wakelets that I'll be adding in the future to look for. We did a book study of speech to print with Dr. Louisa Moats and some amazing chapter authors. So that will be another wakelet that will be added. And we also did a book study with Nancy Hennessy on her blueprint for reading comprehension. So look for those to come in the future too. All right, so next up, let me get somebody in here. So here's really brief resources around the science of reading. Sometimes we just have a few minutes to share resources with teachers around the science of reading, and sometimes a few minutes is just what we need in terms of a resource. So these 3 wakelets really focus on brief resources around the science of reading. The Kastner collection for literacy nuggets, that's exactly what they are. They're just little nuggets of information that kind of whet your appetite for the topic that they're focused on. They're brief, and they might be an ideal resource for you if you're meeting with a colleague and sharing the science of reading. So just very brief little nugget there. A couple summers ago, I got obsessed with creating again some brief resources. I called them Sizzling Summer Literacy Learning. So again, quick, brief videos, but basically the resource related to them is a closed procedure. So if you're a coach or principal or a team, you're working in a team, you can watch the video and you have like a note-taking guide to kind of walk you through it. But again, they're brief. And the top 10 brief science of reading videos, again, they're also brief, but they're wonderful, quick videos. There's 10 of them. They're my top 10 brief videos around science of reading. You might have a different top 10. So they might not hit your top 10, but definitely worth looking at. All right, I'm gonna move next slide. All right, if you'd met me a couple of years ago at a conference before COVID, I probably would have said my name is Pam Decodable Text Kastner. I was pretty obsessed with decodable text. I really was. I think part of it was my grandkids were, some of them were beginning to that emerging reading and were bringing home different types of texts. And so just getting them into text where they could practice the phonics patterns that they learned, I think so important. And oftentimes decodable texts are misunderstood. So they're wonderful resources for practice so that those words become known as if by sight. So I have many resources on that decodable text resources. Please check that out. Jessica Pasek, for one example, who is at the Reading League now, she took all the West Virginia phonics passages and she put them into little books. And she shared those as well. And they are on that Padlet or that Wakelet. So you definitely want to check that out. The other obsession, I don't know as teachers if you get obsessed with certain topics, but I was obsessed with decodable text and decoding prompts for quite a while. And so I also created a Wakelet around decoding prompts and bookmarks. Oftentimes when I have had the opportunity to be in classrooms, when folks are just starting the science of reading journey, they will have prompts in the classroom that I did them myself before I knew better years and years ago. Look at the pictures, look at the first letter and guess, skip the word. I think you probably have seen those Beanie Baby strategies, you know, Chunky Monkey, Eagle Eye, Skippy Frog. And so wanted to create not only a decoding prompt for these different phases of Aries phases of word reading that teachers could use, but also to seek out other decoding prompts that teachers could choose from to help kids when they came to an unknown word, look at the word all the way through and sound it out. That's what's going to help them not only decode that word when they come to it as an unknown word, but also help them orthographically map it so it becomes a sight word. So I'm always trying to create resources where there's a gap. And at that time, there weren't a lot of resources out there for prompts that really focused on keeping kids' eyes on the print. So you'll find lots and lots of resources on that Wakelet that will, you know, choose the one that you like. There's lots of them on there, but they all are aligned to the science of reading. And again, the thing I stressed, we actually had a decodable text party. That's how much of a literacy geek I am at one point. On a Saturday, we had a decodable text party and decoding prompt party, just to use consistent prompts. If you're in a school, you know, pick one of those bookmarks and have everybody use that. So the kids have consistent language when they come to an unknown word. All right, so find resources there around that. Families are our first and forever teachers for our students. So this Wakelet has many resources on it to share with families. So you can partner together in that journey that you're on to ensure that their student is a skilled reader. So I really love all the resources on there. I hope that you do too. All right, these are two wakelets around instructional routines. This one at the top I just created recently. It really goes over the components that are essential to instructional routines, opportunities to respond, direct explicit instruction around the objective, review of what students have learned prior, teaching of the new skill, lots of practice in that skill, guided practice, feedback, error correction. So it's lots of an I do, we do, you do. If you guys love Anita Archer like I do, when you look at those instructional routines, you'll see that methodology in those instructional routines. Really important for the most part, and I'll speak for myself here. I was not taught how to teach kids to read in college, and also not through many of my certifications. And so I want to know all the knowledge that I need to know around the science of reading, because that's foundational, but I also need to know how. I need to know how to take that knowledge about explicit systematic instruction and move it into my practice. And instructional routines, they are that resource that's essential for translating that knowledge into practice. So there's some, I wouldn't say generic, but they're not tied to a particular curriculum or program on that wakelet. And then this wakelet is about instructional routines too, and about explicit instruction, but it's enhanced core reading instruction. I don't know if any of you out there have heard about enhanced core reading instruction. It is from the National Center for Improving Literacy in the University of Oregon. And it is the instructional routines and word recognition and language comprehension that you so wish you would have learned in college. We have been supporting school districts in Pennsylvania through the Literacy Initiative and MTSS initiative in Pennsylvania, and implementing ECRI instructional routines. And we have seen significant student outcomes. And even during COVID, we didn't see a loss, and we've seen gains. So it's the pedagogy you wish you would have learned. So there are two resources there to really support your knowledge building, but also the translation into practice of instructional routines. All right. Next up, in terms of big ideas, is open mic nights. I just started open mic nights because I would see something, or I'd see a school that was doing something amazing, and I think, gosh, more people need to know about what this school is doing or this recent piece of research. And so I just started open mic nights. So let me just share a little bit about these open mic nights, because I think they're some of the best on the Wakelet. The first one there is with Bighorn Elementary in Wyoming. So if any of you follow me, you probably saw that recently they returned to open mic night. So I have two presentations on that Wakelet. Bighorn Elementary is a small elementary school in Wyoming, but they released a newsletter probably now 2 years ago called for families, How We Teach Reading at Bighorn Elementary and How We Approach Dyslexia. And I am telling you, they are the newsletters I wish every single family received. They spell out the science of reading in very appropriate language for families. They tell them what they're changing in terms of this, their instruction, but they also tell them what they'll stop doing. They'll stop doing leveled readers. And so when I saw those newsletters, I was just like, oh my gosh, they just really blew me away, and not only me, but many, many people. And since the release of those newsletters, many schools have used them as a template to share with other families and other districts across the country. So that's what's the first presentation on that Wakelet. But they returned just about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. They reached out and said, we'd love to share with you our data about what has happened since we've implemented the science of reading. And I am telling you, you must watch that video of what they have done to ensure that every student reads. The way they have set up a system of support and intervention and collegiality and leadership by their principal is inspiring. So I encourage you really to check that one out. Another amazing school district that's making big changes in the science of reading. The principal, he's now the superintendent there now, but the principal at the time actually locked away some materials and resources that were not aligned with the science of reading to ensure that they wouldn't be used in the school while they made that shift. So I would encourage you to check that one out. And Danielle Thompson also had supported that school district as they went through that change. And it's a really inspiring one as well. I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Susan Hall. She is the leader, until recently, she just retired, of the 95% group. So Dr. Susan Hall, Dr. Chris Lay, who's an amazing leader here in Pennsylvania, and Sharon Dunn, who was a principal who made large gains in her school district. They joined me for an open mic night to talk about how you can accelerate literacy gains after COVID. And anything with these three amazing educators is a must watch. Robert Meyer in December joined me, very nice of him to do so. And he shared research around embedded picture mnemonics and the latest research on alphabet instruction. So if you're a pre-K or kindergarten teacher, it's really a must watch. He just does an amazing job. Maybe you're familiar with Dr. Pamela Snow. She is a researcher and speech language pathologist in Australia. She has presented at the Reading League a number of times. She has a framework, the science of language and reading, SOLAR. And I'm telling you, when she joined me for open mic, I could hardly talk because I couldn't believe that she would join, but it's one to watch as well. And as I said, it's really important, I think, for teachers to know how to prompt kids when they come to a word they don't know. So Amy Jo Manning, who's an amazing teacher in Iowa, joined me for an open mic night. She shared her reading prompts so generously. And then we also talked about error correction, how important that is when students make an error, that error correction procedure, and to do it in the moment. So an amazing teacher. So open mic nights are opportunities for these school districts or researchers to share their practices with the field, but in a very informal way with resources. During the pandemic, there was a lot of, and there probably still is, because we're on it tonight, lots of Zoom, right? And so what was happening, of course, for kids and adults, is they were plugged in all the time. And oral language is the foundation of all literacy. And with the pandemic, I think there was probably a lot less talk, a lot more zoomed into Zoom. So Erin Amy, who is the secretary of the Reading League Pennsylvania, and I created a presentation for the Reading League called Pulling the Plug. Pull that plug on that computer, and here are many, many resources for engaging in oral language, expanding vocabulary, engaging in phonemic awareness, and lots of talk. I don't think our kids are being talked to very much anymore. And so it's really important to share how important oral language is. And it's free, which is a great thing. It's free, but sometimes it helps to have a few little techniques to get you started. So there's lots of resources on there for unplugging and still engaging in literacy and expanding language and literacy. It wouldn't be a Wakelet without phonemic awareness. We know phonemic awareness is foundational to reading in an alphabetic language. So you'll find lots and lots of resources on that Wakelet for phonemic awareness. For professional learning, we've been very blessed to have so many presentations and webinars. So they've been collected on that Wakelet, as well as on the professional learning. Lots of resources on there, all related to literacy. Sound walls have been a hot topic. I don't know, is that so in Connecticut too? You guys give me a thumbs up or not, I don't know. They seem to be a very hot topic. I have lots of resources on the collection for sound walls, many photos of sound walls. I think teachers, especially when they first started implementing sound walls, they wanted to see what they look like, but also the skills that are necessary to do engage in a sound wall with your students, how important it is to pronounce those phonemes accurately so that your kids do, and then they map them to graphemes. So you'll find lots of resources on there to ensure that the phonemes are pronounced correctly, and sound wall resources from the expert in sound walls, Dr. Mary Dahlgren, and many photos of sound walls too as they were being implemented. In our state, we passed dyslexia legislation, and I've been fortunate enough to work with school districts through that work. And in one of the school districts that I'm working with, they did something I think was pretty fun. and something that would be great to replicate. They did sound wall socials. So the reading specialist had a breakfast where they had all kinds of breakfast items that were aligned to fricatives or glides or liquids. And then they brought the teachers in and they explained to them what a sound wall is, how it's used as an instructional tool. And then they had all the resources for the teachers there so that they could then take those resources and take it back to their classrooms and begin their sound walls. So it was a nice way to introduce teachers to sound walls, build community, and share resources. So I wanted to share that out too with all of you. Also on the sound wall collection here, you'll find a presentation that we did for what is the science of reading, what I should learn in college, where a first grade teacher, a reading specialist, a speech language pathologist, they all talk about how they implemented sound walls and how they're using them. So I think it's good for teachers to hear from other teachers. Teachers want to hear from teachers and how they're going through that journey. So you'll find that also on that sound wall Wakelet. All right, so tools, right? It wouldn't be Wakelets without tools. One of the most important decisions that school districts will ever make is selecting a core reading program. It is a decision that has a lot of ramifications and costs a lot of money. So that Wakelet has lots of tools on it to help you through that process if that's something you're engaged in, and select a curriculum that's aligned with the science of reading. And then the tools, resources, and research, that's probably one of the first Wakelets I started, and has lots of things together. It was before I started kind of pulling them out, but many resources on there to help you. I have one Wakelet on there from my friend who I mentioned earlier, who's the secretary of the Reading League Pennsylvania. She did a wonderful Wakelet on word chaining, and I said, can I add it to my comprehensive one? And she was very generous and said that I could. Word chaining is so important in terms of helping kids be aware of the internal sounds within words and mapping them with graphemes. And so there's many, many resources on here to help you with your word chaining, and also some resources that so that you don't have to build your own word chains. Are there for you. So it's kind of done for you. And then last but not least, writing is the most challenging and latest developing literacy skill. If teachers are not taught how to teach reading, like I wasn't, I definitely was not taught how to teach writing. And so many, many resources on here. When you think about the Scarborough's reading rope and the two domains and the simple view of reading, there's a simple view of writing on this Wakelet, as well as an emphasis too on both parts of that rope, that writing rope, and handwriting and spelling and all those skills at the bottom end of the rope, and also the composition skills at the top. So, all right, so I talked a lot. Sorry about that. I just kind of want to give you like a big picture view of the Wakelets. And then I wanted to share a couple with you. And then I really want you to go out and check them out too, in areas that are interest to you. So is there any Wakelet that anyone in the group here that wants me to go to first? Or should I just go where I want to go? But maybe someone's curiosity is piqued and they want me to go to one in particular. I'm glad to do that. You can put it in the chat, or you can just unmute.
Pam, why don't you go ahead and take us to show us one of them and what a Wakelet actually looks like. And then there are a few things coming in the chat, like, do you have this or do you have that? So, okay. Thank you.
Can you see the Wakelets? No, I don't think so. You can, because it said your screen sharing is paused, but you can see the Wakelets? Yep, I saw a thumbs up. All right, so we
can only see the virtual tour.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to do new share. All right, now can you see? It says Dr. Pam Kastner, Literacy Collection. Is that what you're seeing? You guys give me a thumbs up. Oh, awesome. Thank you. All right. So these are all of the Wakelets. You probably have seen them already. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the decodable text resources. because I want you to have time to check some out as well. Like I said, for a while, it's pretty much my middle name. So it's still coming up. So, all right. So at the top, you're going to see West Virginia Phonics. It's a free phonics scope and sequence lessons with the passages that are decodable based on the phonics focus for that week that the teacher's been focusing on. So it's always nice to have free things. So there's a nice link there to the phonics lessons that are free. And then a parent did a wonderful little video. Maybe you were aware of it. It's called the Purple Challenge. She is watching her child read a level text and talking about, is she reading or is she not? So it's kind of an eye opener. So shared that. Alicia Sparks is a national letters trainer, amazing presenter, and presented at the Reading League on decodable text. It's a must watch. And this is one that the Reading League did when they were just starting out on types of text used in reading instruction. So when we think about decodable text, we have different text tools in our tool belt if you want to think about them that way. So we would definitely be choosing decodable text when we wanted to provide practice for our students and the phonics patterns that they've learned and the high frequency words that they've learned, so they become known as sight, but they wouldn't be the text tool you choose if you were trying to build language. So it's a really nice presentation about the different tools that teachers have, the text tools that they have, and when it's appropriate to use which tool. So I really would recommend that. This is a webinar that was done by Michael Hunter and Linda Farrow from Readsters recently on decodable text. Again, a wonderful presentation. So if a friend says to you, is there any research on decodable text? You can say, yes, there is, and click right here. And lots of citations there around decodable text. Blogs and articles around decodable text for you. Many of those, and then lots of guiding resources. The Reading League has a list of decodables that are aligned with the science of reading that you can purchase. The Measured Mom has a guide to decodable text. There are, again, lots of resources on here that guide you to free decodable text sources, best decodable books and passages. There's a master's thesis there around research around decodable text. And then I'll show you some of the links here in terms of the book room. This is a school that I worked with, but they had a lot of level text when we first started learning about the science of reading. And their book room was pretty much like lots of book rooms that I go into that have a lot of level text. And I wanted to show kind of like what their book room looked like a year later. So their book room really looked like the simple view of reading. They had books that they would use to ensure that kids are reading words accurately and automatically for phonics skills that they've been taught. And they went, of course, from least complex to most complex, as we would in a scope and sequence. And then they took their level text and they repurposed them for knowledge building, so that they were still using them, but they were using them as oral language to build knowledge and vocabulary. So they repurposed their level text, and that's how they did it. So I think it's nice sometimes to show what a book room would look like. So that's on there too. Let me go back. And then there's links to decodable texts that are free. Elemento is where you can go and find free decodable books that align with the scope and sequence. What makes a book decodable is the reader, right? What the reader knows, the phonics skills that they know, and the high frequency words that they know. Pretty much everything that we read as adults is decodable text, but we want to be very intentional with the books that we choose for kids when they're novice. So these are all resources that you can use for decodable text. Lots and lots and lots. And then what Jessica Pasek did is she took those West Virginia phonics and then she made them into like little books. So they're there for you to check out too. So that's one of my favorite because it has lots and lots of resources on it. There is also sometimes teachers and making the shift from guided reading to teaching with decodable text. They don't have an instructional routine to walk them through that, support them, so that's there as well. So there's lots of different routines. And then, I'm sorry, here's Jessica's passages. So the nice thing about these is just the only place there's a picture is the first, the cover, right? The cover of the book. And then the kids would read the text. And then after they'd read it, they could draw the pictures, but the focus is really on the kids decoding, not on looking at the pictures. So she's taken those passages from the West Virginia Phonics and she's turned them into cute little books that the kids can read at school and then they can also take home. So those are on there. Lots and lots and lots of them. God bless her. Okay. So that's one. Does anyone want to have one that they want to see? I'll do it that way, and then maybe I'll let you go off and check out one that might be interesting to you. Anyone, you can put it in the chat or you can unmute.
Pam, can we see the one about routines, instructional routines?
Yep. Yep, I'll show you both actually. But here's instructional routines. This takes a sec to come on. There we go. Again, this is one I just recently did. It's not as complete as the others, but some nice resources. Of course, Dr. Anita Archer explaining what instructional routines are. She is the expert there. This resource around enhanced core reading instruction. Again, those were the instructional routines that were aligned with word recognition and language comprehension. And they provide wonderful samples for them. The Middle Tennessee State University has some wonderful resources around lesson frames for phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge and phonics, decoding, and fluency. So let me just show you what they look like. Okay, so there you go on the side. The review, sound matching, and then you can, for our teachers too, they're just checking off in the boxes where they're working. There's some really nice explicit instruction language here on the side. And then, kind of like everything's parsed out for you. And then also the time for each component. And so they have one for each of basically the big 5 components. All right, let me take you back. Oops, don't want to lose that. The Oklahoma Phonological Awareness site has lots of phonological awareness direct explicit instructional routines for you. There's blending, there's segmenting, segmenting with cubes. If you're not a follower of Reading Science in Schools on Facebook, you definitely should. And they have a wonderful book here with lots of routines, instructional routines for all the components of literacy. And then everyone's probably very familiar with the Florida Center for Reading Research, and then shared these routine cards for explicit instruction and vocabulary. And some schools that I work with, they actually put these on cardstock and they put them on little rings and they use them until they felt comfortable in all those routines. So when you look at them, you probably hear Anita Archer's voice. I know the first time I saw them, I heard Anita Archer's voice, right? So ensuring that kids see the word, they're saying the word, there's a student-friendly definition, examples and non-examples, and then lots of questions for deep processing. So, all right, so that was the instructional routines, and the ECRI one, I'll just show you real quick, and then let's see if you could just scoot for a minute. Oops, move that, things are moving around. And ECRI. I would highly suggest that you check out ECRI. It's done had a significant impact in Pennsylvania and many other places as well. So there's Carol Diston, who's the national trainer and ECRI and researcher. This will give you a quick video about what ECRI is. The State College School District and Penn State did an open mic night where they shared their experiences with ECRI. They have a Google form so you can see ECRI in the classroom. All you have to do is fill that out and they'll give you access to their videos, and then this is direct explicit instruction routine and ECRI for phonemic awareness and decodable text. So lots of resources there too, videos and resources, literacy nuggets and other resources. And then schools talking about how they moved away from different practices to ECRI. So I think it's always good when teachers hear from other teachers. So you can see there's a number of school districts on here talking about how they shifted to ECRI. So, and there's a website and training where you can get the training. Is there anyone that anyone wants me to look at, or is there, we could have you just go out and check out one on your own? Or if you, we have just a few minutes left. I know we started a little bit later. Anyone from the group, something to look at?
Pam, someone asked a question about assessment tools and progress monitoring. Is there anything a Wakelet with that yet?
Not yet, but
Not
thanks for
yet?
asking it. I'll put it on my list. Yeah.
It's not meant to be
Yeah.
an order here.
No, no,
just
but
wanted to know.
that was, yeah,
And-
the Wakelets for the most part have been created based on what teachers have said they need. So I appreciate that you shared that. So I'd be glad to start working on one like that's related to that.
And to go to any of these, how's the initial access if we want to do that?
The link that I share with you,
Okay.
the comprehensive one, that'll take you, let me see if I can show you. This will just take you to the comprehensive one. So we go back to Wakelet. See, this is a Wakelet. This Wakelet is almost what I would call the Wakelet of Wakelets, right? The instructional routine ones, the ECRI ones, they were their own individual Wakelet. This Wakelet, whenever I create a new Wakelet, it goes on here. So all of them are on one spot. So when you go to that link, it'll take you to this one. And all of these are Wakelets, individual Wakelets. So I think that's the best way to use it, because that way you just have them all in one spot. You know, you don't have to have different links that you need to be thinking about. If you want the sound wall one or the decodable text one, you could just go to that one link and there you are. I'll put it back in the chat.
Mhm.
But all you do is copy that link and you go there and it's right there. And again, like everything's free. So there's no cost for them. And I hope they're helpful. I've heard that they are. So, I mean, that's why I created them. I hope in some small way they're making a difference for a teacher or a student. That's why I created them. So any questions? Or anything I can answer? And thanks for the idea for the assessment and progress monitoring. That's definitely one that would be very helpful.
Well, I have to give credit for this Wakelet tour was one of our board members, Bonnie Dabrowski, and she's the one that asked about assessment. So she is asking all
good.
the right questions. So thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the invite. It's just like something to peruse when you have time and when you have a need around a topic area. And they're not static Wakelets. So I'm adding to them pretty much every day. I'm adding something into one of them. Something comes up that I think would be valuable in that area. And so things are added. So they're not static, they're dynamic. So, you know, I hope that you found them helpful or will in the future.
Right. And Claire, your question, the link that Pam just put in the chat is the link you need to get to this starting point. I think that's what I want to be sure everybody knows how to get to all of these resources.
So maybe if everyone can just go to that link, just so we make sure that you can get there. And I would just, if you can, bookmark it. That way, you know, you have it handy.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions or any way I can help? Anything I can show you before our time ends at 8? I don't want to keep you after, but I'd be glad to do anything to help you out.
Oh,
Can we
Hi,
look at
is
the
there-
William Van Cleve one?
Yes, yeah. Thank you for asking about William. The sad thing about William is he didn't like to be recorded. And so what I have here on this Wakelet is, to my knowledge, all all there is. So if someone finds something of William, please let me know and I'll add it. But William Van Cleve was a unique and brilliant and amazing human. And there really was no one like him, and there never will be. But he was brilliant around a grammar. He could always teach you grammar, but also make it fun. He was just wonderful. So this is his mentor, Diana Hamburger King. So, and this is a picture of him with Anita Archer and Jan Hasberg and other friends at Plain Talk. So there, you'll see some resources on there around his life, but then again, you'll see resources from Ohio as well. So you see some tributes here, but also you'll see once you get to about this point, here he is talking about syntax. It's a really engaging interview. He always said syntax was a superpower, and I think it was for sure. Here he's talking about dyslexia. He was an Orton Gillingham certified dyslexia therapist for many, many years. Here he's talking about structured literacy and a podcast. Here he's talking about dyslexia not being a dirty word, the D word. Here are some his website. You can still purchase his materials. Here he's doing a wonderful presentation on morphology. And here is one where he's talking about morphology again. Here he's doing a presentation on syntax and sentence writing and sentence comprehending. And he was a part of the speech to print book club, and he did the chapter and speech to print on syntax. So again, this is very well done. As I said, syntax was a superpower. So there's a number of resources on here for really expanding your knowledge of syntax and then handwriting. He had done a webinar for us on handwriting. Here he's talking about handwriting as well. And here's a resource on here that he was part of a team at Patent that created a team of writing experts in the patent literacy and MPSS team that created a writing scope and sequence. This is something that there just isn't a lot out there in terms of writing, and especially a scope and sequence. And he was integral in helping us create that. And this writing scope and sequence has been used. It's on the Effective Writing Wakelet as well, but this writing scope and sequence has been used by districts, throughout the world when they're designing their instruction around effective writing practices. So I included that too, because he was such a big part of the teamwork that went into creating this writing scope and sequence.
Wow.
So yeah, I know he was an amazing human. We were very good friends, but also I learned so much from William. So thank you for asking to look at that one. I every chance I get, I want to continue to share his good work and continue his legacy. So thank you for asking.
Well, as we approach 8 o'clock, are there any other requests? Any other, to see anything else before we let Pam go? We, like you, we know it's been a long day for you, so we don't want to keep you beyond the 8 o'clock hour either. So
yeah, I'm glad to stay, but I don't want to hold people either, but I'm glad to stay if anyone wants to see anything or has questions or anything. I hope that you find them helpful. And a resource for teachers or folks that you're working with, administrators. I think the top 10 brief videos might be sometimes a great way to start.
Oh, somebody's, Pam, excuse me, but someone was just asking, which Wakelet could you refer a school district to get the leaders started with the science of reading? I think that's a great question.
I think check out the Wakelet for the top 10 brief, the top 10 brief videos. And also I didn't have Emily Hanford's work on there because they were brief, but I would never not recommend Emily Hanford's podcast that she's done, docuseries she's done around the science of reading. They are must watch, must listen to. So Emily Hanford has made a significant impact on the field in terms of getting the science of reading out to the not only teachers, but to the general public. So sometimes a brief snippet is good. I think honestly, if you're looking at materials and resources for decodable text. I do think that purple challenge, that's quick, but boy, all of a sudden you realize like, why are we putting those books with all those spelling patterns in kids' hands while they're learning the code? There's some videos, I think there's videos on a number of the Wakelets that might be at an entry point, but the brief videos might be something to just start with, start small.
And Pam, another question, comprehension strategies for secondary students, do you have?
Yeah, that would be the blueprint for reading comprehension. I have to get that moved over, so I will work on getting that over. I would strongly recommend Nancy Hennessy's book, the Reading Comprehension Blueprint. It is just, it is the book on comprehension, and has, it's, based in research, but heavily sourced and application. So I would strongly recommend that.
Okay. Well, I think we could just keep on keeping on here, but we don't want to do that. So thank you all for joining us this evening. If you have questions, please send them to us at the Reading League through Facebook or any channel that you've been using to communicate. And on behalf of the Connecticut chapter of the Reading League, Pam, thank you for doing
You're
this.
welcome.
Just
my
an
pleasure.
incredible amount of information that you've put in our hands. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for your time. All of you have been working all day long, and you came to spend an hour with me. So thank you for that honor. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, that we're still getting questions in the chat.
Good. Yep,
Yeah.
go for it. I don't mind at all.
I think it's Nancy Hennessy's
The reading
Blueprint.
comprehension, yeah, the reading comprehension blueprint.
Pam, there was a
Mhm.
question by somebody that asked, what were the videos called? How did you title those videos?
Oh, it was called the top 10
Okay.
top 10 brief science of reading videos.
Okay.
They're my top 10. It doesn't maybe mean that they'd be your top 10, but they're my top 10. Stephanie Stoller has a wonderful video. It's about under 5 minutes around the science of reading, and just is very succinct. It's very good. But sometimes that's the entry point. Leadership is so important for equitable outcomes for all kids. So thank you for asking about that.
Anything else before we say good night?
Well, I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah, seriously. We have a stormy Saturday ahead, so it's a perfect
I think
time
we're going to get
have all
snow
of this.
here too. Yeah, I think we're going to get snow. So
Thank
We're
you so
definitely
much.
allowed
That was
to.
amazing. Absolutely amazing. I am so in awe of your organization and your energy, Pam.
no, I feel very blessed to do what I do, and I think all of you do too. So if I can help in even one small way, I'm glad to do that.
Well, I think we know a little bit why Pam has all this energy. I learned at Play Talk that she's addicted to Pepsi. So if anybody wants
Diet Pepsi,
yeah.
Yeah,
We just
yeah.
need to send her a caseload of that.
I'm actually like off of it right now. It's
well, good.
painful.
Oh, well, you still seem to have a lot of energy. So on that note, we ought to say goodnight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Reading League Connecticut, and everyone who came.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Good night now.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Night.